And welcome into Hoopsville, everybody. It is Thursday, January 22nd, and we are live. Unlike last week, where last Thursday we were at the NCAA convention. Some technical difficulties precluded many of you from watching the show on Thursday. We apologize for that. But we are live for most of the or some of the show tonight. We do have some pre-taped segments ahead of time, but lots to talk about in Division 3. Just like last week, we had a lot. When we weren't able to cover things, we had a lot to talk about that we weren't able to talk about on Thursday from Wednesday's games. Well, the case is definitely true this week as well, as there was plenty to talk about around Division 3 and especially the top 25 in just Wednesday night, of course, all week as well. But the new top 25s came out. Not a lot of changes. We'll talk about that. Well, we'll talk about that now. Augustana stayed number 1 on the men's side. Whitewater stayed 2, so did St. Thomas staying 3, and their first place vote stayed the same. Dickinson fell 3 spots. Pretty good considering Hopkins' success. Then we'll talk about Hopkins in a minute. But they moved just down 3 spots. WashU moved up into 4th. Marietta moved up into 5th. Virginia Wesleyan moved into 6th. As we mentioned, Dickinson fell. WPI was 8th, moving up 5 spots. Big move for them. Albertus Magnus up to 9th. I think there's some top 25 voters getting a little bit nervous about that, at least who I have talked to. Worcester moved up into 10th. Randolph-Macon moved up 5 spots to 11th. Emory tumbled. 2 losses and only fell 7 spots, though. Certainly respect to the rest of the UAA and, of course, who they played, Chicago and WashU. Richard Stockton fell just 2 spots. I find that a little surprising. Maybe not everybody read into the Ramapo loss like I did, or the barely getting past their next opponent either. They only fell 2 spots. I removed them from my top 25. I think the high wire act is over. Franklin and Marshall fell 4 spots for their loss to McDaniel. More about them in a minute. Stevens Point down 3 spots. St. Norbert down 4. John Carroll tumbled 8 spots, having lost 2 games. They're probably lucky that they ran into a cushion, essentially, near the bottom of the top 25. Chapman up 2 spots. St. Olaf up 2 spots. Babson up or down 5 for their loss to WPI. I'm not sure. I think that's a little bit harsh. Not sure how we're reading into that a little bit. I think Babson falling 5 spots when you look at a team like Dickinson only falling 3 certainly makes you wonder what's going on. I think there's a lot of questions about Babson, certainly, and maybe less questions, even though there should be a lot more for Dickinson. Chicago moved up 2. Elmer stayed the same. Ohio Wesleyan fell 6. Johns Hopkins entered the top 25 for the first time in nearly 7 years. Congratulations to the Blue Jays, and Case Western Reserve made an appearance at top 25 as well. Though Case Western Reserve made it with just 46 points. If you think about it, if everybody put a team 24th, they'd have 50 points. So you can consider Case Western just barely squeaking in. Scranton Amherst out of the top 25. No surprises there at all. We'll quickly go through the women. Not many changes there. Though number 3, Amherst took a tumble down to 8, and Tufts got the reward by going from 9th to 5th. George Fox also jumped with their dominating performance over the weekend. Jumped from 10th until 6th. Montclair State fell 4 spots as well with a loss. Calvin jumped into the top 10. No real surprises. Scranton falling 6 spots, having lost to Catholic. No surprise there. Hope fell a couple spots after losing to Calvin. Transylvania's moving up. They're playing very good basketball. We'll hopefully be talking to them in the near future. Wheaton fell 4 spots. Salisbury jumped 3 spots. Whitworth fell 3 after getting dismantled by George Fox. John Carroll down 2, or up 2, I should say. Maryville up 2. Puget Sound up 2. North Central up 2. Williams down 5 after losing over the weekend. Oshkosh fell 7, and Luther stayed in there. And believe it or not, nobody fell out of the top 25. But Bowdoin is just on the outside looking in of the top 25. And then that gets us to last night, and Wednesday certainly was some upheaval, to say the least, in the top 25. Of course, Augustana lost to Illinois Wesleyan. You've got to figure maybe Illinois Wesleyan will now re-enter the top 25 as long as they get business taken care of. Whitewater all over Stevens Point, but apparently this starting point guard for Stevens Point is in a boot. Don't know necessarily what that means. Boots are far more common these days than they used to be, Boots used to mean horrible news. Nowadays, it could just be protecting an injury, and down the road, that injury is okay to play on. I've seen players who play in games and then are in boots afterward just for a lingering injury. So don't want to read too much into that necessarily. St. Thomas beat St. Olaf last night. They've got a big game against St. John's coming up on Saturday. You got a question there of who's gonna take over number one. Should everybody make it through? Will it be Whitewater or will it be St. Thomas or will it be WashU? They're certainly in contention. They've got their trip out to the East Coast this weekend. They'll take on NYU on Friday. They'll then take on Brandeis on Sunday. Not a trap necessarily, but certainly challenging. WashU's got to get through that weekend. Marietta, so far unscathed. Virginia Wesleyan, number 6, losing to Randolph-Macon in a good game last night. You got to figure those two teams will swap spots. Dickinson all over F&M. I got to go back and look at the play-by-play. It could have been tight with about 10 minutes left, about 10 points. Doesn't matter. They lost 33 points. Dickinson all over the Diplomats there. I'll say this now. I hope it's not true, but one concern I had about F&M was such a young team, undefeated at that point. Once they took a loss with the wheels unceremoniously unhitched from the train, and in this case, losing to McDaniel, now they've lost to Dickinson. They've got to get back into winning shape. I'm not certainly saying a loss to McDaniel on the road at McDaniel was all that surprising. They've lost 4 times in the last 7 years in Westminster. Now they get spanked by by Dickinson. They've got Haverford coming up on Saturday, then Gettysburg and Swarthmore. Conceivably, Diplomats can right the ship here, no problem, especially against Haverford. But that's an improved Haverford squad. Gettysburg, remember, beat Dickinson earlier on, and Swarthmore is a test. After that, it's Johns Hopkins, then at Washington College. You might remember they lost to a winless Washington College a couple years ago on the road. Then Ursinus, Muhlenberg, Gettysburg, Dickinson to wrap up the season. F&M going right into the teeth right now, the schedule. We'll see how they respond. Stevens Point taking that loss and with the injury. We'll see how voters determine that. St. Norbert still playing well. North Central playing pretty good basketball, or not playing good basketball, but at least maybe righting themselves, as it were. The 2-game loss is over. They beat Carthage by 5. By the way, jump out of the top 25 real quick. Did you see Milliken, what they did to Wheaton? You thought Dickinson over F&M was a slobber knocker. Jeez. Milliken destroyed Wheaton on Wednesday night in men's basketball. Terrific win by Milliken. Congratulations to them. But wow, I did not see that coming. I could see maybe Milliken squeaking out a game. I know that they're a good team, but they just absolutely dismantled Wheaton. But more losses in the top 25, of course, as you go through. St. Olaf losing to St. Thomas, obviously ranked above them, et cetera, et cetera. So interesting top 25. Voters are going to have to make some more decisions, as it were. On the women's side, so far status quo. Nothing really has jumped out on that one just yet. But I do want to congratulate Becky Martin, who you remember we had on the show last week. She did win her 500th game last night. By the way, the players decorated her door, her office door, with logos of all 67 teams that she has been at the helm against in wins. So all 67 teams, included some D1s like UMBC. Becky Martin got her 500th. And Dixie Jeffers winning her 600th game at Capitol and 652nd overall. Got to congratulate her. To be sure. So action-packed night on Wednesday night. It promises to be the same coming up this weekend. You got to figure it's just the amount of what's going on in this is pretty impressive. By the way, Worcester, for example, hitting triple figures for the second game in a row, 104-73. Babson, by the way, going on to beat MIT 61-48. Certainly impressive outcomes from a lot of these teams, and it's certainly going to be fun to watch them the rest of the way. By the way, quick plug to D3Hoops.com. Don't forget, Around the Nation and Around the Region articles coming out. Great writing this year from our writers. Certainly have been enjoying those. Around the Nation focuses on Case Western Reserve, while one of the Around the Nations focuses on, Around the Regions focuses on the Danzig family at Scranton. Another one focuses on the Nikitas family, the sibling rivalry, as it were. So some great stories, definitely worth checking out, and certainly great writing by the crew there at d3hoops.com. I hate to say it, I'd rather be at Stevenson tonight. Was going to try and pre-tape this entire show after their game got moved from Wednesday to today. Just couldn't get it all put together, as it were. But the Stevenson women's basketball team, who's off to a tremendous start, only 2 losses on the season. With 13:40 left to go in the first half, Mustangs lead 45-41 on Lebanon Valley. That's certainly worth keeping an eye on. Remember, Lebanon Valley having a good season under a brand new head coach. Men's game coming up afterwards. It was looking forward to that, but unfortunately, weather delayed the game to today, and we just couldn't do anything to get ourselves back online, as it were, in time. So lots to cover, lots to talk about. We'll keep an eye on a lot of things here throughout. And by the way, we always love thrilling basketball, as many of you know. We'll talk about who we got the guests coming up, but I want to get to a couple buzzer beaters. First, we're going to go to William Patterson. Their men's basketball team had a thriller against Ramapo. Remember, Ramapo just beat Richard Stockton last night. They had a thriller in a game, and it came down to the wire, and this is how it ended there for William Patterson. Really thrilling, to say the least. William Patterson about a 2/3 of the court toss to beat Ramapo. We should point out actually that tied the game and forced it into overtime. They were trailing Ramapo 71-68 with 2.9 seconds left. That was sophomore guard Zach Frick who got that launched off. By the way, William Patterson would go on to win 86-81 in overtime. And nice job by Frick there. That wasn't the only one. Marion had a thriller against Edgewood the other night. Carville Oliver with the buzzer beater, but not how you draw it up, as it were. Check this one out. This one certainly a good job, but not only of a good heave at the buzzer, but some solid defense as well. Okay, so maybe not the best defense. The offensive player obviously lost his footing on that play, but what was more interesting from my point of view was the reaction of the team. You'll notice they basically mobbed into the corner. Hope everybody came out of the corner unscathed, to say the least. But terrific job by everybody involved. Terrific games. We love buzzer beaters. Don't forget to tweet them out there when you get the opportunity. Now let's talk about who's going to be on the show tonight. We got a jam-packed show full of surprises. This is that time of year where we have lots of surprises going on. Teams who are playing really good basketball, who you may not have expected or are still playing good basketball, gaining confidence, doing better and better. We're going to jump around mainly 4 regions tonight. The Mid-Atlantic, the East, the Great Lakes, and the West. Those are the 4 regions we normally cover on Thursday night, plus a School of the Week, which comes out of one of those 4. We should mention School of the Week presented by the City of Salem, proud hosts of the men's basketball championship once again this year. On the men's basketball side, we'll talk to Johns Hopkins men's basketball coach Bill Nelson coming up here shortly. Team, again, as we point out, in the top 25 for the first time in nearly 7 years after a big win over Dickinson over the weekend. Continued their winning ways with a tough trip to Washington College despite the elements yesterday. We'll talk to him about his team, talk to him about what the expectations are for the Blue Jays. We'll also go to the East region and talk to Stevens women's basketball. They're having a tremendous season, kind of a rebound under their head coach, Megan Howie, and this is a team that is certainly playing maybe above expectations with a lot of young players. That's going to be a theme tonight, how the younger players, the not necessarily seniors, are stepping up for these teams. We'll also go to our School of the Week. We'll head out west to the IIAC. Luther women's basketball will be our guest. Talk about a good season. Luther, who has been struggling for a number of years, has kind of come into its own. under their head coach with Wisconsin roots. We'll talk to them about how their season has progressed. Then we'll jump back to the Great Lakes, talk about Mount St. Joseph. Have we talked about Mount St. Joseph before on the show? Of course we have. But we talked about Laurel Hill. We've talked about the women's team. This time we're talking about the men's team. They lead the HCAC Conference. Remember, that is now in the Great Lakes region. A game lead on Denison. It's a coach who graduated from Hanover, cut his teeth as an assistant coach at Transylvania, and has now turned the Mount St. Joseph program around. We'll enjoy talking to their head coach about the Mount St. Joseph program. And then St. Olaf, yes, they lost to St. Thomas last night, which is unfortunate for them, but they are having a tremendous season, building off of last year's success and first ever NCAA tournament appearance as a Division III institution. We talk about the fact that despite losing 7 seniors, they are back in the hunt. They are in second place in the conference. Last night's game basically determined who would be in first by a game lead with a lot of basketball to play. We'll talk to their head coach, Cosmos, about that and why the Ollies, or why the MIAC has turned into a tough conference. The top 2/3 of that conference is within 4 games of first place. MIAC certainly a tough division at this point in the season. We'll look forward to that coming up here. So again, Coach Dan Kosmosky joining us here on the show coming up. So that's what we're going to cover on the show. We certainly have other things to touch on, including the fact I will be on the road this weekend, weather permitting. Weather permitting. We are going to be on the road. We're going to see some games on Friday and Saturday. Not going to tell you where we're going. Follow us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville using the hashtag Hoopsville. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. We'll hit the road, see some games, get some interviews done for our Sunday show as well. Follow us there. We'll also use the hashtag Where's DMAC just for the fun of it. Find out where we're headed and where we're going to games. Weather permitting, there is a major storm brewing for the East Coast, which could have effects on games as well this weekend. Obviously, it will all depend on if we can get to point A and if we can get to point B, C, D, E, F, wherever we're going, and get home. So I will tell you now, if something doesn't look right or I don't feel like I'm going to be able to, I can drive in any weather. Anybody knows me knows I can drive in bad snowstorms. I thrive on it. It's the other drivers I don't love so much on the roads. If I feel like this is an insane task, we will take a step back and not do it. But at this point, we're hitting the road. We're going to be at games on Friday. We're going to be at games on Saturday and heading home on Sunday for Hoopsville. So stay with us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville, hashtag Where's DMAC, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Don't forget, you can also email us, Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. So that's all coming up. We'll keep an eye on the scores, as we pointed out as well. There's certainly other things going on we'll keep an eye on. And, for example, number 12, Texas Tyler, women's basketball team leads 34-32 on Dallas right now. We'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the women's basketball story out of Stevenson. Again, I think they're 13-2, I want to say. 53-50, Mustangs the lead with 8:20 left to go against Lebanon Valley. Major game there in the MAC Commonwealth. We'll keep an eye on that one. So we'll take a break. When we come back, Johns Hopkins men's basketball coach Bill Nelson will join me, and we'll talk D3 hoops with him and about his Blue Jays and see how he thinks the team is doing. That's all coming up here on the show. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentors Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus. I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles.
At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on our Thursday edition here. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you have any questions for us, email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com. That's hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can also join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. This whole show's kind of unintendedly about the surprise teams going on in Division III. And not necessarily surprises in what their expectations were or surprises in what is happening at this point. It's more about, okay, now they're ranked, or they're still continuing to play well, or they've gotten a big win, or maybe they're finally turning the mentality of what everybody thinks about their program. One of those programs that is maybe surprising or not surprising this season is the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays men's basketball team. Certainly, we're coming off of last year's NCAA appearance. They're playing good basketball, got a big win over Dickinson on Saturday. That leapfrogged them into the top 25 in the number 24 slot for the first time, ranked in nearly 7 years. So I figured, well, I got to go talk to our good friend, Bill Nelson. So joining us on the Hoopsville hotline from the number 24 ranked Blue Jays of Johns Hopkins is Bill Nelson. And Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate you taking the time as well. First and foremost, congratulations on this season. 14-2 overall so far, 8-1 in the conference. You're up on top of the Centennial Conference. If memory serves, and I could be wrong, I think the coaches all predicted you guys to maybe finish second in the conference. I remember when I saw that, I kind of took pause and went, well, that's interesting. You guys are proving it right now. You guys have got a good season going on.
You're right. We were picked second, and we finished strong last year. And we have some quality kids back this year. So I think that's why we were picked so high.
Well, you certainly have quality kids. Remember, you guys got the big win over Dickinson in the Centennial Conference game at Dickinson to get yourselves the NCAA tournament. And really, many people may not realize this, but that game against Virginia Wesleyan wasn't exactly a blowout. You guys made it close in the second half at one point. The Marlins had to kind of fight you guys off a little bit. Are you going to pull off the upset? How much has that finish to the season that you guys had last year kind of still fueling the cause this year?
Well, it certainly helped. Our guys really believed in each other. It actually started earlier in that. We were 4-7 last January, a little over a year ago now. And, we made a couple changes. We went to a veteran lineup, four juniors at that time, and instead of playing some of the younger guys, and went from 4-7 to I think it was 17-11, and now we're 14-2, which means it's been a pretty good run. I think that's 27-6. So you're right. In the Virginia Wesleyan game, we're down 18 in the first half, and I'm sitting there. Well, keep your cool. Even though we might get blown out by 40, we've had a good year, and then. The guys did what they have done all year and this year. They just, they never quit. I'm really fortunate to be working with the 15 young men that enjoy playing basketball so much.
Well, it's fun to see. I mean, obviously I'm from the Mid-Atlantic region. I know the area pretty well, but everybody knows that Johns Hopkins basketball has always been a formidable force. And, for a few years there, you guys struggled. The last time you had a 20-win season was 2007. You had a number of seasons below 500. 2011 was certainly tough at 7-18. The last year, as you pointed out, you're back up to 17-11 last year. You're already 14-2 this year. I guess it's probably obvious that it's enjoyable to be winning, but it's got to be nice to be on the sideline with a program that's competing as well as you guys are now.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the luck of the draw because recruiting's such a crapshoot. I mean, when I first got to Hopkins, right away we lucked out, and our first class was the class of '91, and then for the next 4 years we just had a great group of kids and went to the NCAA's 5 times in a row from '90 to '94, and then sporadically since then. You mentioned 2007. We had a team of seniors. I think at the Division III level, you do win with quality juniors and seniors. And shortly after that, we had a couple of bad recruiting years. And when you have a bad recruiting year or two, it really costs you down the line. And we ended up having 3 losing seasons in a row. And then Jimmy Hammer and George Bogarinovich came aboard, and we went from 7 wins without them to 15 wins the next year with them. And then we picked up a win each year, and now they're seniors, and we're reaping the benefits of those 2 guys and the other 2 seniors on the team, Luke Chambers and Omar Randall.
I was going to say that's definitely where this team has succeeded. You've got 4 seniors on this squad. You also got a healthy group of juniors, though you have 1 sophomore contributing in ways. We'll talk about him in a minute, but let's talk about this team. Jimmy Hammer leading the team, 15.1 points a game. He's averaging about 2.5 assists a game, if my math does it correctly off the top of my head. But he's dangerous from outside, 47% from beyond the arc, 78% from the free throw line. Bogarinovich, George, as you point out, the senior, 13.1 points a game, hauling in nearly 7 rebounds a game, shooting 57% from the floor. And then Ryan Kern, the sophomore, stepping up too when he's been able to, 11 points a game for him. And then you still got guys that you're playing every night, like Gene Williams and Austin Vasalidis, Omar Randall, Matt Billups, all playing 16 games, plus other guys playing more than that. So it's certainly senior laden. It certainly has its junior core, but you're getting contributions from a lot of people.
We are, and could end soon because we have 10 juniors and seniors on the team and 3 sophomores and 2 freshmen. So we better have a good recruiting year this year, or we're going to be in deep trouble. But let's worry about that down the line. Jimmy and George, they get a lot of the recognition, and deservedly so. Jimmy last year, he came to Hopkins, a pure shooter, and he has developed his entire game. You mentioned, assists. Well, last year at the end of the year, teams picked him up tightly, and he finished. He was off a little with the 3-point shooting. Over the summer, he started working on taking the ball to the basket, and now I think he does lead the Centennial Conference in the assist-turnover ratio. And mentioned Austin Vasilidis, our point guard, as a junior. Last night he had 11 assists and two turnovers, and I think he's leading the league in assists. So you're right, it's a contribution of a lot of people, and they're sharing the ball in a way I've never seen it shared before, and it makes it a lot of fun for everybody.
Well, it's fun to be watching. By the way, I should point out one difference on your sideline is you don't have your longtime assistant anymore. Decided he was done with you. Took a seat. What's it like to have a bit of a younger assistant coaching staff and not the usual group that you have next to you?
Yeah, you're talking about Bob McHugh, who legendary coach for us because he was the guy in charge of our defense. I like to, allocate responsibility to my coaches, and Bob did a great job for 25 years, and he's got 8 grandchildren now, and enjoying that part of his life. That he stays in touch with the team and went on a road trip to us to Washington and Lee, and he's very close to the guys, especially the juniors and seniors. And we were fortunate enough to pick up a younger guy. He's about 40 years old. His name is Jeff Akins. For you old timers out there, his dad played 8 years in the ABA and 2 years in the NBA. Jumbo Jim Akins. He played with Dr. J and all those guys when the ABA was so fun to watch back in the late 70s, I guess, early 80s. And Jeff's now in charge of our defense. It's a little different. We used to be more of a containment man-to-man defense, and now we're doing, a little more pressure, forcing people into different zones, and what's happened, the plus side of it is we're getting more points off of turnovers. The negative side is we just seem to, I think we're dead last in the conference in 3-point defense percent, so there's pros and cons to everything, but, the guys have really bought into it, and I'm really lucky to have guys like Bob McHugh and Jeff Hopkins with me, and then the youngest guy you're talking about is Mike Munchko. His father coaches at Community College of Baltimore, Terry Munchko, and Mike's young. He just bridges the gap between us old timers and the players. Mike was a star at Salisbury, and it's nice to have balance on your coaching staff as well as on your roster.
Talking to Bill Nelson here, the 24th ranked Johns Hopkins Blue Jays head coach. Coach, I got to ask, it's been nearly 7 years since you guys were nationally ranked in the top 25. I know that well because Pat and I did the research and I was able to track it down. What's it like to be back in that conversation, to get the news that you're now in the top 25 with wins over Dickinson, for example? What's it mean to this program? What's the buzz like on campus?
Well, there's not any buzz because nobody's there. The students come back.
True.
This weekend.
Not even in the office.
Actually, we have one more week of intercession, so it's kind of quiet. But there's a lot of athletes there. The baseball team, swim team, the lacrosse teams, volleyball. They all came to our Dickinson game, and they were a huge part of our spirit that night. And I can't say enough about our teams. The athletes of Hopkins stick together, and. So it is exciting, but from my standpoint, you've been around a while. A lot of listeners have been around a while. It can turn on in a heartbeat. You have an injury here or something there, and all of a sudden you're without so and so, and so I'm just kind of holding my breath. You take the good when it's there, and then ready in case something happens along the way, and try to adjust for the situation.
Talking to Bill Nelson and Coach, you guys have won 11 straight. Your last loss was to Franklin and Marshall on November 25th by 9. Of course, that was at your place. You also lost to Alvernia earlier on. I'll admit, when I saw the Alvernia loss, I shook my head. There's a team that's rebuilding a lot this year. But since then, with wins over Gettysburg and Muhlenberg, a win over Center, who's certainly been in the top 25 conversation, and then you've been rolling through the conference, essentially winning by double figures in most games. Haverford gave you a scare. And you got that win last night at the always difficult Washington College after having to deal with the weather to cross the Bay Bridge. What's the message to this team as you guys get ready to travel to Muhlenberg on Saturday and then come home for a couple of games against some tough opponents?
Well, they've just put the jinx on us. We withstood the Sports Illustrated jinx. Two of our guys were in Faces in the Crowd last week, and we got through that one. Now we got to go through your nice thoughts about us. 11 in a row is you don't expect that, and good things have to happen. We were up 24 at Haverford with 10 to go, and 15 with 5 to go, and with 2.6 seconds we were down 1, and we pulled it out. So, there's a lot of luck in it. But our kids, like I said earlier, they really believe in themselves, and they're so good so far at taking one game at a time. I was really worried about Washington College last night. Washington this year, their stats are really skewed because they don't play any non-league games at home. They went to Florida and played 3 games. One of their players from Florida, then they helped pay for that trip by playing William and Mary and things like that. And they were averaging less than 1 point a game, less than we were averaging. I was really concerned about it. And the guys went out there and got off to a good start, and they had a good game. And we got to do the same thing in Muhlenberg Saturday. It's a long road trip. They're going to be honoring their point guard who just broke the school scoring record. One thing about our conference, some of the teams that are struggling right now are really young. They have mainly freshmen and sophomores, and you hope you play them before the light comes on. And you never know when that light comes on either. It could be the next year. It could be in the middle of the season. You mentioned Ryan Curran.
Yeah.
There's a correlation there. The last game he didn't start was our last loss, and so there's the next jinx. He's a post player, but he plays like a a wing. In other words, he's grown about 2.5 inches since he got to Hopkins. When he came here, he was going to be like a 6'4" wing, and now he's a 6'7" postman who's got wing, talent and athletic ability. And Ryan has been a load. And he and George Bogdanovic have really complemented each other in that. So you just hold your breath and hope good things continue.
Certainly interesting team, and you could talk about turning the lights on. It was you guys, as you pointed out earlier in this interview, turning the lights on and getting them to flick on last year. Let's talk about the conference a little bit, because it's a conference that has certainly changed over the years. F&M dominated for several years there. Now it's a little bit crowded up top. You guys obviously leading the way, 14-2 overall, 8-1 in conference play. Then it's Franklin and Marshall and Dickinson, both 7-2 in conference action, also with identical 14-2 records. So F&M's lost 2 in a row. McDaniel's lurking at 6-3, 11-4 overall. Gettysburg's lurking 10-6, 6-3 overall. Certainly the rest of the conference is tough, but that grouping I just mentioned, 5, with only 5 spots in conference tournament action available. That's a heck of a group right now with a 3-game lead on everybody else. Not that I'm going to say you guys can't win the conference, but how do you see this conference shaping up?
I think the team that stays healthiest might win it. It's so important at the end of the year, and my new assistant Jeff there last year was the middle of January, and he said, "Coach, how come we're not doing any more blocking out drills?" Or I said, rebounding drills. I said, because we'll get hurt. The kids get tired as the season winds down, and they easily get injured. And we really don't scrimmage a heck of a lot during this last third of the year. And being healthy at the end of the year, like we were, was a huge key, and it probably will be this year, because you're right. You just named 6 teams that are, neck and neck with each other, and we haven't played McDaniel yet. And we never went. We never went over there, and they're just out defending people, and they're out scrapping people, and you play at Gettysburg, and you certainly never want to get behind, because it's so difficult to catch up with them with the way they run that great Princeton offense. And we've talked about the F&Ms and the Dickinsons, and it's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
Are you having fun, Coach?
I'm enjoying these guys. I really am. I was enjoying them when we were 4-7. I just think they're a great group of guys. They, for some reason, the leadership by Bogdanovic and Jimmy Hammer. Ed Richardson's our other assistant coach. He's been with me all 29 years, and he's the guy I lean on most of the time when I want to talk about the team and discuss things. And he's having a ball. He wouldn't still be doing this if he didn't enjoy it. And I give so much credit to the kids we're working with.
Certainly impressive. You've been 28 years at Hopkins. Certainly you've been coaching longer than that. You're a Brockport grad, but you have some coaching roots at RIT in Nazareth. If anyone doesn't know, you coached Jeff Van Gundy when you're at Nazareth. I think that's worked out pretty well for him.
Jeff's having a ball. I got on the bus yesterday we were heading to Washington College. We were talking. I said, I got to believe there's one more shot at coaching for him. I think knowing him, he's so competitive. But I know he enjoys his gig on the NBA games a lot.
Do you stay in touch with him?
About twice a year. I talk to his dad about once every 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
We're family friends, and so Stan and Jeff. Stan played against us when he was at Brockport, and I was at RIT. Jeff played for me at Nazareth, and then Stan coached at Castleton State in Vermont, and Stan and Jeff, he coached against Jeff when Jeff played in Nazareth and all that stuff. It's the basketball world's one little family.
Well, it is certainly great to see how well the Blue Jays are doing, and I'm certainly glad to have you on the show. I appreciate you taking the time. You've talked to your women's basketball coach way too much if you're talking Jinx. We don't need to bring up last year at all.
No.
Good luck the rest of the season. I certainly am going to look forward to seeing you guys, I hope, in person here coming up, despite the fact you're 20 minutes away from me. As always, though, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, Dave. I just appreciate all you and your friends do for D3 and with your D3 hoops, and I know it's a huge factor in spiking basketball interest throughout the country at the D3 level, and we all really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate the kind words. Certainly looking forward to seeing how you guys do the rest of the season, and we'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Dave. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Coach. Bill Nelson joining us here.
Division III schools offer academic scholarships instead of athletic scholarships. This really puts the focus that the student athlete.
Sorry, folks. Jumped the gun on our video there. We apologize. I want to thank Coach for coming on the show. Again, team is 14-2 overall, 8-1 in a very busy top Centennial Conference right now. 11-game winning streak. They've got Muhlenberg on the road coming up Saturday. They then are at home against McDaniel on the 27th and at home against Haverford on the 31st. To round out the January schedule, they still got their rematch with Franklin and Marshall, Dickinson, of course, a rematch with McDaniel, Looming, and Gettysburg coming up in February. Thanks, Coach, for joining us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll jump into some women's basketball and jump into the East region. Stevens women's basketball, to be exact. Megan Howie will join us here on the show. Quick update, women's basketball at Stevenson women's basketball, I should say, beat Lebanon Valley 64-58. They go on. They're still on a huge winning streak themselves. I think they're 14-2 overall now. Certainly hats off to the Mustangs there. We'll keep you up to date with other scores when we see them. When we come back, East Region Stevens women's basketball coming up here on the show. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
Division III schools offer academic scholarships instead of athletic scholarships. This really puts the focus that the student athlete needs to maintain that GPA.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III. A lot of people pick schools just based on the sport and don't get that experience.
Being a Division III athlete and developing my leadership skills has definitely put my name out there and helped me get more recognition on campus, but more recognition nationwide. I did win the Jostens Trophy, which is based on leadership, academics, and then how well you do on the court.
I'm also the Schwartz Scholar of my class. Schwartz Scholarship is basically a scholarship that is given to a student who's identified as a likely leader.
At the end of the day, it won't matter how they play on the field, it will matter how they do in the classroom.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this show. It is Thursday the 22nd, as we are nearly the end of January, believe it or not. Certainly time is flying. In a week's time, we'll be on the air for 12 hours. We hope you'll enjoy, or join us, I should say, and hopefully enjoy the show as well. It's certainly going to be jam-packed, and it was successful last year. Well, hopefully it's successful yet again this year. If you want to interact with us or have questions, join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, or on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. If you're watching the show, you can see that all at the bottom of your screen. Going to switch gears and talk women's basketball now. And one of the teams certainly getting plenty of attention, or at least I think they are, on the East Coast and in the East region, is coming out of the Empire 8. And that would be Stevens. The Ducks certainly had a breakthrough season last year, going 18-9. They are 12-2 as we speak. So it made sense, if we're going to talk East Region basketball, to talk their head coach. And joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is Coach Megan Howie. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thank you.
Terrific start to the season. Obviously, we're more than halfway through, so saying that's a little bit old, but you lose to a national-ranked Salisbury squad, certainly playing well. You lose by a scant 5 points to start the season there. Then you go on a tear before Ithaca tripped you up back on the 16th just about a week ago. This has been a pretty good season for the Ducks.
Yes, yes, we're very excited. We have a young squad. We have no seniors on our roster, and 4 juniors that really carry the weight for our leadership. So it's been a really exciting year just to see what, however you're young, how much maturity we've showed and how much they enjoy playing together. So
one of the advantages of where you guys are located, you can certainly access a lot of good teams, being close to New Jersey and elsewise. You obviously went to DeSales to play and got, unfortunately, the loss against Salisbury, but rebounded with a win against a decent Arcadia squad. You've played William Patterson this season, certainly a tough squad. You've obviously played in conference as well, but you even went down and played TCNJ out of conference. How important has been the out-of-conference play as now you get into the real crux of the conference action?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of our goals, is to play a good out-of-season schedule this year. We went into Salisbury. The girls very knowledgeable of the success that they had last year, knowing, what their returns, and it would be a battle. And I think we really, from that, has grown a tremendous amount. That loss taught us a ton and really allowed us to kind of push to the next phase of our schedule, which we are today. We also have Muhlenberg coming up next week, which is another good out-of-conference game for us, too. So,
yeah, I was going to say Muhlenberg. You even have Lehman coming up later in February. What I find interesting is you've got a lot of, let's call them holes in the schedule in the conference action, allowing for these games like TCNJ and Muhlenberg and Lehman, a little bit not status quo, as it were. But you seem to want to keep this team moving. You don't want to necessarily give them some time off to maybe not rest, but I was going to say lose their focus or anything. You want to keep things moving along, and it's nice you could get some out-of-conference games later in the season to do that.
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the hard things with the Empire 8 is we play back-to-back conference schedule. So we're playing a lot of Friday, Saturday back-to-back games at this point in conference, just because our games are, range from 5 to 6 hours away on a bus. So for us, we definitely look to fill those holes so we don't have long weeks off. We had a full month off over the intersession, which is the academic final period. So that's always hard to get through, and we kind of don't really want to repeat that amount of time off. So I think our schedule this year has been so far, done well for our girls in terms of staying prepped and not too much time down. So I
was going to say, that's the other quirk of the schedule. You only played 6 games in the 2014 part of the schedule. You played Salisbury, then you played Arcadia the next day. The next 6 days later, you played Brooklyn, and 3 days later, you played Centenary. You played William Patterson and Vassar, all before December 6th. Then you had that month off, as you point out, and then you slammed some games in there. January 2nd and 3rd, 6th, 9th, 10th, 12th, 16th, and 17th. In the first, 15 days of that schedule, you played basically 8 games. You certainly got back up and running. And as a result, you got some pretty good results. You got to be thrilled with not only the 12-2 record, but the fact you played all those games in such short time frame and still clicking along.
Right, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think one of the unique things about our team is we, on any given night, are playing 12 kids deep with no drop-off in productivity. So we play a deep roster this year, a lot of young kids, and I think that's also can, attribute to some of the success, is that I don't consider our kids ever really getting tired. We do a good job of kind of knowing the role and coming in and working hard in the minutes that they play. So I think that's also a big factor with now that we're kind of banging away games here, some of that success. So
the team, this team as a whole, since joining the Skyline, certainly or from the Skyline, joining the Empire 8 has certainly had success. We've had 20-win seasons as recent as 2011, but then it went through a rough stretch. 14-14, 14-13, 18-9 though came back into the forefront last year, and now 12-2. Is the excitement coming back about this Duck squad?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I said, our juniors now, when they were freshmen my first year, we had a roster of right around 8 kids at one point, and they got a tremendous amount of playing time. And although they're juniors, they've like I said, played, and now almost going into 3 years of starting roles. So for me, I think, that's the unique thing, is that now our sophomores, same thing. They've played a lot of minutes for just being so young. So I think they're excited. We've got, great attendance at games and a lot of support from the community and from the school. And like I said, the interesting part of the team is they love to play together. We pride ourselves on making the extra pass and passing, and they really enjoy that, it makes them fun to coach. So.
Talking to Megan Howie here, head coach for the Stevens Ducks women's basketball team. Again, 12-2 on this season and off to a good start in the Empire 8 at 6-1. You are just in your third year as head coach for this team, and a team that has no seniors on it. If anybody in Empire 8 is looking ahead, they probably aren't that thrilled about that fact coming up next year. But that means you guys are really gelling this year. What's it like to have a team like this succeeding like they are, with everybody on paper coming back next season?
I think it's extremely exciting. I think the challenge is to take one game at a time. I think for us, we've broken the season down into different seasons, and right now we're in season 2. So we've kind of broken into parts for the girls as a way to stay focused, but as a way to kind of see the big picture and what they're able to achieve if they're able to push through each season and each segment of our schedule, and just do what we do. We pride ourselves on defense and being the toughest team and rebounding, and try to simplify it for the girls so that there's, obtainable goals at the end of each game, win or loss. And they've done a really good job with that. So I think it's just staying the course and realizing every game is a big game, and not getting too far ahead of ourselves. So.
Caitlin Estelle, your junior, is leading the way at 16.6 points a game. It's a sophomore who's not even starting in Brittany Washington, second on the team at 8.9 points a game and shooting 53% from the floor. Of course, hauling in 6.1 rebounds. Should mention Estelle's bringing down 7.3 rebounds a game. Miranda Ripken, 8.2 points a game, 7.8 out of Dylan Krause. You got your one player in Caitlin, who's certainly getting double the points everybody else is, but it clearly seems like you're getting contributions from everybody.
Yes, and that's one of the things we decided in the beginning of the year we want to be is the best team. I think we looked around and said we have a lot of scoring opportunities in the paint and outside, and a lot of girls can put the ball in the basket, but, who do we really want to be? And I think everybody, kind of agreed that, we play deep, we see who's on that day. Brittany Washington has been phenomenal off the bench, coming in as a threat, and just doing her thing. And Caitlin, she's a phenomenal player, and I think she definitely gets our energy up. She rebounds hard. Like I said, I can't say enough about great things about Miranda Ripken. She barely comes off the floor. It's frequently have her guard their best player, so she's a defensive force, offensive force. So like I said, a lot of these kids are playing well both sides of the ball, which also is, again, fun to coach. So.
Just for the record, I feel bad for Miranda Ripken, as we are out of the Baltimore area. Not only has she got the Ripken name, she's from Fallston, Maryland. From basically down the street from Ripken Stadium, everything Ripken-like. I don't feel bad in the sense that I think there's maybe expectations of her that are not fair. But what's it like to have the ability to pull in players from a lot of different areas? You have certainly a lot of New Jersey, and you certainly have some New York, but you've got California and Florida, Maryland, Georgia. This is just scanning your roster quickly, and other places. What's it like to be able to pull in students from many different areas to a school as small and unique as Stevens?
Yeah, it's a coach's dream, in my opinion. I think that's a true testament to the school. All of our kids have come to Stevens for the academics, and that just plays such a huge part in our everyday life at Stevens and in recruiting. I think it makes us, a desirable place. And as Stevens goes up and up and up in the rankings for us as coaches, it becomes a little harder finding, kids that can be qualified academically, but when you do, I think you put yourself in a whole different league of, like I said, national recruitment model and where you're able to pull from. So I know my coaches have loved it. We recruit hard across the country throughout the year, and it just provides a neat piece. I think it also, for our team chemistry, is also neat in that we have such a variety and diverse, makeup of where kids are from, and it isn't just kids from Jersey, and I think that makes it, very fun to coach as well. So.
By the way, I meant to ask you one quick question about, was it Washington, Brittany Washington? Seems like she's the type of player, if she's thriving that well, playing about 18 minutes a game, coming off the bench and contributing the way she is Is she that kind of player who maybe is better off the bench than necessarily as a starter? And they do exist.
Yes. I mean, my biggest thing is, me and the coaching staff talk all the time about realistically we can have a ton of different starting lineups, but, our belief has been a little bit, don't fix what's not broken. And Brittany has thrived in the position we put her in, which is, hey, 5 minutes into the game, here's your time, your minutes, and go in there until you're tired. And it's worked. So, she might be a phenomenal starter, but for us, it's more of, we've really got a groove here going on with the minutes played and how we sub and what we do there. And I think the girls feel good about it. They play, like I said, you can see that the joy they have playing together with different groups. So for us, Brittany Washington is kind of the unseen weapon, we like to say, coming in, or maybe not on the first, opponent scouting reports, and she's not in the starting lineup, but she's so skilled. She's got such a knack for the basket. She's a phenomenal kicker. She loves to play with her back to the basket, and she's a tough defender. So for us, we really enjoy having her in that role of kind of the next round of girls sub in, and she's a part of that. So.
Talking to Megan Megan Howie. Geez, I'll get that right. Women's basketball coach at Stevens Institute of Technology in the Empire 8. Again, 12-2 on the season, 6-1 in conference play. Before I talk about the conference, one more question about your team. You've gone 10 deep in 12 of the 14 games. There's a handful of other games, or more than half, where you've gone even deeper than that. Is that a sign that you've got games in control and can play players? Or is it a sign that you're just that deep?
Oh, I would say, yeah, no. I think it's definitely that our trust is that deep. I think if our next crew that comes in, like I said, there's not a drop-off, in my opinion. It's a little bit of a different style, and, we do a little bit different play calling and whatnot, but from our first group to our next group and everybody that subs in, I think our coaching staff, we feel very comfortable in the variety of threats, and that it's not, not a matter of the score. It's more a matter of this is who we are, and this is hard to guard. This keeps us fresh. It keeps our legs fresh, in my opinion. 2 years ago, I couldn't take some of the kids off the floor, and I was asking them to play, 39 minutes plus, and it's kind of nice now to have that support system, and it's their other kids' turn to go in and do what they do in those minutes. And again, from our point guard on, Erica Gazette, our point guard, I can't say enough great things about her either. Is that she loves assists this year. You could see her; she loves making phenomenal passes. So it's so much more to our team than just being the top scorer. Or we pride ourselves in a variety of different ways, and I think it's allowed a lot of kids to get into the rotation and be the leading rebounder, be the person that guards their best player. And Daphne Jen does that a lot, and asking her to shut down their best player. And so it's been fun. The kids, I think, enjoy it, and it's been fun coaching. So
let's talk about this Empire 8. You guys are now 6-1 in conference action. Ithaca's ahead of you at 6-0, thanks to that win just the other night. Both of you, the stellar records, 12-3 for Ithaca, 12-2 for you guys. St. John Fisher lurking 2 games behind, or really a game and a half behind at 4-2, along with Nazareth, both with winning records. Utica's at 5-3 with a winning record. And then there's everybody else, Amira, Hartwick, Alfred, and Houghton, certainly struggling. What's this conference going to come down to? Clearly, it looks like you and Ithaca are going to battle it out from the top. But I have a gut feeling nobody's writing off St. John Fisher, Nazareth, or Utica just yet.
Yes, absolutely. Our biggest thing is, playing on the opponent's floor in this conference is definitely tough, so you never want to take a road game easy. And I think, like you said, that we've got some tough teams in our conference. St. John Fisher's having a great year. Nazareth and Lindsay Kelly, their post player, they're tough. They have a great team. Even Utica, who's tied in for 4th. They're a very tough team to play. So I think for us, it's going to be in the Empire is definitely a fight down to the finish, which it was last year, just to see who secures those last 4 spots. So.
Of course, travel will be a big deal. You've got to go to Hartwick and Utica coming up this weekend. Hartwick in the middle of nowhere. At least Utica's on the thruway for the return trip home. You then have the home game against Muhlenberg. Then you're back on the road for 2 conference games, basically out near Rochester, and then back home, or then again on the road for Lehman before you're home. Really what I'm getting at is you guys got to be road warriors at least for the next few weeks, really for the rest of the season, as by my count, you only have about 4 games left of your remaining schedule at home. this is going to be the tough grind, as it were.
Yep, absolutely. This is kind of the long stretch here, the big push. And, we're excited to be in the position we are, but we also can't take for granted and look too much at our record. And more, it's about, like you said, how you perform on the road. How tough are you on the road? Hometown crowds, schools back in session for a lot of schools means strong away crowds for a lot of these schools. So, for us, it's just got to be doing the little things and staying focused on, who we are, while also making sure we're prepared for our opponents. But this is going to be a good test for us. And I think, like I said, we're excited. The girls are ready, and to kind of fight through this section of our schedule.
So what's the message to the team? You've played 14 of your 25 games. You're about two-thirds, or I should say about a third of the way through conference action with 7 of your games played. What's the message to the team that you guys may be repeating often as you're in practices or in games or on the bus as you travel for the rest of the stretch?
Yeah, our biggest thing, that goes on every scout report is just toughness. And we mean that in a variety of ways. Get to the rim, be the better rebounding team, be mentally tough through runs, and, it's a game of runs. And then our second thing is just, heart, hustle, and team. We want to be the best team. And I think with our depth and the belief the girls have put into each other, you can see that kind of take form out there on the floor. So those are definitely the two, our two mantras that we're pushing for now as a staff. The girls have really done a good job of believing in, and it allows us to play good defense and hold teams to, point totals and goals, and it allows us then to play, hard on the offensive end. So.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about the team. Certainly impressed with how you guys have handled the season so far with that certainly odd schedule, but it's worked out at 12-2 on the season. 6-1 in conference action. I know, again, you'll be back on the road here shortly. As always, though, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
I just thank you very much for having us. We're very excited and to be a part of your show. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
All right, thank you.
And Megan Howie joining us here on the show. We appreciate her taking the time. Again, team hits the road, travels to Hartwick and then Utica this weekend before returning home for a non-conference game against Muhlenberg and then back on the road for conference action weekend play of 2 games, finishing up at Alfred to finish out the month of January. Appreciate her taking the time to join us. When we come back, we'll stay with the women's basketball theme and talk about our school of the week. We'll head out west to Iowa and talk about the Luther Norse. That's all coming up here on the show. Again, don't forget to interact with us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show here on Thursday, January 22nd. Let's not go back too far in time. Lots to cover, obviously, as we're primarily talking about the East, Mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes, and West regions. Of course, we also have our School of the Week, presented by the City of Salem. We'll have all the graphics and all the fun stuff on a future show. But if you do want to go to the Men's Basketball Championship weekend, make sure you head down to Salem, Virginia. More information will be available on buying tickets, which you can pretty much buy at any point in time, but we'll share more of that information as time moves on. Our School of the Week this week, we are back in the West Conference, or in the West Conference, I should say, talking to a team who's certainly having a spectacular year, looking to return to the glory of as recent as 2007 when they won 24 games. Since then, it's been a little bit tougher, and joining us via Skype is Amanda Bailey of the number 25 Luther women's basketball team. Coach, thanks for joining me here on Hoopsville.
Yeah, it's great to have a chance to talk with you.
I appreciate you taking the time. Love the T-shirt, by the way. Zero excuses. I have a gut feeling that's what many coaches would love to be wearing, especially this time of year.
Yeah, definitely. Our kids, it's kind of the motto we took on earlier this summer, so they've been sticking to it.
I appreciate the sentiment, that's for sure, but I suspect there's a few players every once in a while going, come on, this time of year, I need one excuse. I just need something to get me through this.
Probably, but they know that they shouldn't come to me with that.
It makes some sense.
They've got teammates that can help them through tough situations, but when we step on the court, we expect zero excuses.
Sure. No, that I can understand entirely. This is a team that is certainly playing really good basketball right now. The team is 14-2 overall. We booked the segment before your game against Simpson, which was a tough loss on the road by 7 there just last night. To hand you your second loss, but you're still 4-1 in conference, which has you tied in a 3-way tie with Co and Dubuque at the top of this IIAC. You got to be happy with how this team is playing, especially considering you've already outdone your win total from last year and you're knocking on the door of the win total from the year before.
Definitely. I mean, it's also like we struggled last year. It's very obvious looking at our record and going into this year. We wanted to kind of have a new approach, and knowing that we've got 12 kids on our team of 21 that weren't on the team last year. Yeah. So to spend time thinking about that instead of moving forward wasn't something that we wanted to do. So our kids have been playing hard and fighting for everything. And, going into conference, being picked last, it didn't mean anything to this team because this is a completely different team. They were going to use it as motivation and just keep pushing forward. And it's a very, very tough conference right now, tight race. And it was unrealistic to think that any team was going to go through, the season undefeated just because there's so much competition from, every single night. So tough loss last night, but a loss is what you let it be. And if we take a step back, then it will be a loss. If we can use it to push us forward and become a better team, then it came at the right time.
You're in your 4th year as head coach for this team. Of course, you're a former 2-time D3Hoops.com All-American. And I noticed that you decided to book your alma mater for the opening game of the season. You took on Stevens Point. I'm not sure Shirley likes you anymore as you handed her squad a 61-56 loss to start the season. I saw her at the D3Hoops.com Classic. Great to see her. I always love catching up with her. But are you even on speaking terms with her anymore?
Oh, definitely. Shirley has been a role model for me from day one. There's a reason I wanted to go play for her and spend a year coaching with her. She's given me a lot. She's done a lot for me. Coming back home on that first game, it was definitely a bittersweet a game. Stepping back into the gym and being able to coach against her. And the best thing was that she told me she was proud of me, and the win was great, but hearing that from her meant a lot.
Was that before the game or after?
Afterwards.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Because then she's being sincere.
Yeah.
By the way, we should also point out you were a 4-time All-American in track and field there. 4 times in the shot put and once in the discus. I know track and field well. Looking at you, I don't mean to be disparaging, but I wouldn't put you down as a shot putter.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as a collegiate athlete, your body's a little different than when you're done.
True.
So I think, honestly, I weighed more playing college basketball than when I gave birth to my kids. But, it worked for me then, and now you find different ways to to stay healthy in life. So.
Yeah, I do not look like I'm like soccer days whatsoever. Let's just be realistic of that. Back to your team again. You start that run, you get the win over Stevens Point, then the win over Carthage at Stevens Point. You beat St. Olaf. Platteville then trips you up. We got a chance to see them at the D3Hoops.com Classic. To be honest with you, I can see how that could have happened. Mm-hmm. You rolled through some of more of your old rivals in River Falls. Then you got kind of back into things. Even taking a trip down to Tennessee for the Music City Classic. And you just kept winning and getting big victories before getting into conference play. How much confidence has this team just been kind of building as the season has progressed?
They're definitely becoming more confident. You've talked about how the last couple of years haven't been good, and history and past experiences and games can really mess with our kids' focus and their confidence going through. So getting a win, every one has been very important for us to move forward, no matter who team it is. We kind of took a new approach again. Like I said, different style of defense we're playing, full court, 94 feet of pressure, 40 minutes. So definitely want to continue to get better at that. And going into the season, it was realistic to think that if we couldn't get things figured out, we could go 0-4 to start the season. So winning that first game and continually going, our kids kept believing in what we're doing, which was very important to have that trust between coaches and players. And the Platteville game, they're a tough team. They've got some great players. It came at a good time for us to take a step back and continue to improve on what we want to do and take a look. What adjustments do we have to make? Every team's going to approach us different. Every team's strengths and weaknesses are different. So how can we use what we have and the aggressive athletic players that we have to pull out a win?
Talking here with Amanda Bailey, head coach for the number 25 ranked Luther women's basketball team. The Norse off to a 14-2 start, 4-1 in conference play. And you took over for Coach Hillebrand, who was the dean of the IAAC, essentially. She's on to being just a student life dean now on campus. I assume she's still there. I didn't get a chance to research that. But you took over a program that was steeped in history and had been struggling for a little while. And since your arrival, your first rough year, certainly at 6-19, but then 13-13, 11-14 last year, and now, as we pointed out, you're 14-2. Basically, I should correct myself from earlier, surpassing the last two seasons in wins. That's got to be creating a little bit more buzz again about Luther women's basketball on campus.
Definitely. I think anytime you're trying to turn a program around, a new coach comes in, it takes time to get the right players in, to be able to play the style that you want to play. And there is some excitement. There's, our crowds have been bigger. People are excited to watch our girls play. We had a couple transfers come in that just bring the intensity that we need, that they're making the players around them better. It's just been a great ride so far.
You only have 3 seniors on this squad. You have a lot of players at least listed on the roster. Yeah. You're led by a junior in Morin Loaning at 13. Loaning, thank you. 13.9 points a game. Megan Kopnick, your senior there at 13.5 points a game. Another double figures from, is it Kylie Romeo?
Yep.
Great name, by the way. Romeo's averaging 12.3 points a game. Of course, she's a junior as well. So you've got a little bit of senior leadership, but this is a program that's been building with underclassmen. You got to be very confident. You talk about, building as a new coach. You got to be pretty confident with the building, as it were, towards the future with all these underclassmen as well.
Definitely. We have the leadership that we need. Megan has been a 4-year starter for me. She came in, our program was down, believed in me as a coach and our team and what we could do, and she's definitely been a part of this turnaround. And we also know that we're going to have Moran and Kylie and some younger kids. Our post players are young, freshmen, sophomore inside. We'll graduate one of our seniors, Carrie Keelan. But this is just a very young group coming up, but also just a young group playing together. Like I said, 12 of the kids weren't on the team last year, so we've got a different feel, a different vibe, and that's just been really, really strong for us. We do have 21 kids on the team, which is a big roster, and I think a lot of times the unspoken heroes right now are those 10 kids that come into practice every single day, working hard, pushing our team. We couldn't be where we are right now if we didn't have that competitiveness in practice, being able to go full court in our drills, work hard. So it's going to be exciting to see those kids as they continue to mature and get better and where they're going to fit in our program as well.
Should also point out Anna, is it Madrigal?
Yep.
She's also averaging 10.5 points a game, or really 9.8 points a game. So, again, you got lots of options. She's a sophomore. It's clearly a team built for the future. And I think that's what's interesting, especially when you look at this IIAC this season. Coe and Dubuque are certainly in the conversation. Simpson is having another terrific season. This is a conference that just last year you guys you were down at the bottom of at 2-12, whereas Loris was the team at top at 12-2. Seems like a lot of turnover in this conference this season.
Definitely. Like I said, it's scary going into every single night. People are like, who do you have next and how are they going to be? And you talk about it. Every team is so different. It's tough. You just got to figure out how you're going to match up with each school, what you can do, how you can use your strengths and hopefully show their weaknesses just to get through on any night. It's going to be a race to the end.
It certainly will be. Amanda Bailey joining us here from the Norse of Luther women's basketball team out of Iowa. You've got Loris coming up on Saturday. You then take off and hit the road to play Buena Vista and Co. the following 2 games to wrap up January before returning home. And home will be good for you in February as you play 4 of 6 at the Regents Center. But how important is it to kind of get back off this loss against Loris at home before then hitting the road for 2?
Yeah, it's very important. We talk about defending our home court. I'm sure everybody has that same thought. You want to defend the home court and try to, steal a couple wins on the road. We've got our alumni coming back this weekend, so that's important for us too, is to continue to show that Luther pride. We've got a lot of those kids who were part of the program when it was seeing a lot of success. So for them to come back and cheer our kids on and be able to have that, those conversations back and forth. But like I said before, a loss is as big as you want to make it. Well, how quickly can that team turn around and continue to string wins together? And we just got to continue to play Luther basketball.
Coach, as you are our School of the Week, we like to have some fun. School of the Week presented by the City of Salem, host of the Men's Basketball Championship weekend. We like to have some fun because, we want to make it unique. And so I know you've only been there for 4 years, but we do have a trivia game that we play with our School of the Week. It's based on history of the school, history of the athletics department, maybe of your own program there at Luther. I promise you there are no questions about Stevens Point, so I didn't necessarily throw any easy ones in there. I hate to tell you, last week we started off with a 5 for 5 on the 5 questions. Granted, he was an alum of the school, and we did not know he used to give tour guide trips. Did not realize that when we had the questions, so he was able to skirt out the 5. So I wish you luck. I apologize. Some of these I looked up myself. I realized they were doozies, but they're at the same time fascinating trivia. So do you mind having some fun with us here?
You bet. We like to have fun at Luther.
Awesome. Okay. So these are in no particular order as to how difficult or easy they are. But we'll start with the first question. It's about the women's basketball program. Luther women's basketball has had 11 players, according to the website, score 1,000 or more points in its history. But who has scored the most?
Oh, geez.
I know, sorry. At least started with your team.
Let's see. Is it Trisha Hoffman? Am I wrong there?
It's not Hoffman. It's Carrie Tufte?
T-U-F-T. Yes.
1,920 points in 102 games between 93 and 96.
I should know this. I remember it being on Jane's wall. I stared at it many days in meetings.
Jane's probably watching this going, I can't believe it. Watch out. She might walk down to your office tomorrow.
We haven't been looking at the records much this year. So.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Luther Athletics officially began actually with a baseball game in 1891, if you can believe it. Who was their opponent? The only reason I brought this up is this school has some history with each other.
Wartburg?
No, very good, but no.
Okay.
But they're not in the same conference.
Okay.
So I'll give you a second chance at this one.
Oh, not in the conference.
No. You played them this year.
We play them this year?
Yeah, you did.
Lacrosse?
No.
No, I'm sorry.
St. Olaf.
Oh.
Yeah, see? There's some history there, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Olaf's your answer. This one I'll give you as close as you can get here. Since joining the Iowa Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, Luther has actually dominated in all sports. How many IIAC titles has Luther won? Close. I'll give you within 5.
I'm just going to show how
That's
ridiculous I am right now.
It's not going to get easier, I hate to tell you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Do you want to give me like a range?
Yeah, I'll give you a range. So I'll give you a best of. So between 75 and 100,
Okay.
125 and 150, 175 and 200, and 201 and 230.
I'm supposed to pick one of those ranges?
Just pick one of those ranges.
What was the first one you said?
First one, between 100 and 125. 100.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, you should have gone for the last one. It's 229. 161 on the men's side, 68 on the women's side.
We're going to have to pull out some trivia with our team.
I know. You're going to have to.
Yeah.
The next ones are just ones I found fascinating. Maybe one
I'll
of
be
them,
the one that can goes 0 for 5 this week. So
it evens it off. Yeah, they'll even it off. Luther was established as a Lutheran seminary by Norwegian immigrants, thus the name. That was pretty easy. But in what year was it established? Come on, you got to know this one.
We just celebrated our 150 years.
That's a good start.
Years ago, so I think we've been established for 152 years, I think. So, what's the math on that? I usually turn to one of my players for me, my math major.
Yeah, you went to a state school, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, thanks.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Oh, I'm serious here. Where we at?
I'll let you do it. It's okay. You're thinking it through. That's half the battle.
Yeah. Well, it's 1860 something. 61?
Yes, 1861 is the answer. It was previously known as the Norwegian Evangelical. I can't even spell.
Yeah, and it wasn't even located in Decorah.
No, it wasn't.
It was in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it started in Wisconsin, but it was first the Norwegian Evangelical Lutheran Church College in 1857, redone in 61 as Luther, and you're right, did not start. I did not go with that trivia. I should have gone with that.
I should get bonus points for that one.
You should, but I got a bonus question coming for you.
Okay.
So here's the final one. Luther has had a number of notable alumni. Many have gone on to incredible music careers, and several have gotten involved in politics. What alum, though, went on to be a governor and a U.S. senator from his home state? Yeah, I know. I just like this question.
I give up.
Clarence Norman Burnsdale, 24th governor of North Dakota, class of 1913.
Yeah, sorry.
Bonus question. What Luther alum became the wife of an eventual Speaker of the House of Representatives? Callista Bisek, better known as Gingrich. Newt Gingrich's wife, class of 88. By the way, just because I love this, 2 alums, and this is where you're going to find your history that I referenced earlier. 2 alums have become the first presidents at colleges. Ingbrit Gross, in 1885, graduate, became the president of Concordia Moorhead, and Thorborn Morn, I hope I say his name right, it's Norwegian, 1870 class, President St. Olaf.
Oh.
Yeah, see.
I do know the St. Olaf history there, but my husband's a Luther grad, and he's the trip in the family, so we should have had
yeah, well, we should have brought him in. I apologize.
That was fine.
We could have had more fun, but I had to do the Wikipedia search, look on the website. I just randomly grabbed some stuff. So, hey, you at least got one right. That's not going off the snide. That's pretty darn good.
Good.
Coach, appreciate you coming on and having some fun with us. Again, the team is certainly having a terrific season, as we pointed out. 14-2 overall, 4-1 in conference action. But before we let you go, we always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be watching?
I think, as we continue on in this season, our kids are just going to continue to work hard. We talk every day about having the pursuit of excellence, not necessarily the pursuit of winning. And we're going to play with grit. We're going to play with guts. We're resilience, intensity. We're going to be tough. And from day one, when we walked into the gym, we said that if we do the things that we need to do at the end of the year, we'll be where we're supposed to be. And right now we're finding out that our hard work is paying off, and there's a lot of season to go yet, but we're going to continue to try to make Luther proud.
Very good. Well, you certainly have. Again, 14-2 on the season. I still want to see Shirley book you for next another time. I think she's going to duck you. That's just she doesn't want to lose again. Now they're having a good season as well. But thanks so much. You certainly have traveled around, but you're on to conference play. You'll be hitting the road soon, and good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Amanda Bailey joining us from Luther. Again, the team 14-2 overall, 4-1 in conference play. They will take on Loris at home in conference action coming up here on Saturday before hitting the road to round out January against Buena Vista and Co. When we come back, we'll switch gears and go back into some men's basketball. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. More Hoopsville right after this.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things. Not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show on this Thursday, January 22nd edition. Don't forget, if you missed any of the show or you want to catch up with it later, you can watch it on demand on our Hoopsville page. Of course, you can also listen to it podcast-wise via SoundCloud. Appreciate all those who have certainly been attracted to the podcast. Bigger numbers than we expected. We certainly love that. But at the same time, glad you're watching it via video as well. We're going to switch now back into some men's basketball chat, and we're going to switch into the Great Lakes region. And one of the stories maybe has bubbled to the surface a little bit on the men's side of things in the Great Lakes is certainly the Mount St. Joseph men's basketball team, mainly partially, in fact, that the HCAC is now officially in the Great Lakes region and not buried, as it were, in the central region, but nonetheless off to a terrific start this season. Couldn't help but bring them on, and at 13-3 in overall and 8-1 in conference action, it did seem like a bit of a no-brainer. So joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is Toby Kerrigan, head coach for Mount St. Joseph. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Dave, thanks for having me. Appreciate everything you guys do for Division III hoops, and happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I do notice that you and I are roughly the same age, as I notice you're a Hanover grad of 98.
Yes, sir.
So not only are you still in this conference, as it were, you know this conference well. You know that starting out 8-1 in this conference right now and being 13-3 is a pretty good way of being at the midway point, as it were.
Yeah, we're pretty happy with how our guys are playing and how hard they're playing, and absolutely being in this league for so long. Of course, I was at Transylvania for 9 years too, so I've been in this league for a while, and it's top to bottom like almost every league. It's a grind every night, every conference game. So we're pretty pleased with how the first half of the conference season's gone.
Being 9 years at Transylvania under the lanes, I can only imagine what
Yes,
little
sir.
tricks you may have picked up along the way out of Kentucky. Of course, you're just further a little bit north up in the Cincinnati area now, and you look at this start to the season, and unfortunately, you ran into Augustana, who unceremoniously thanked you for your appearance in the second round of the game, or second game of the season, and Defiance tripped you up for your lone conference loss by a scant 3 points back on December 6th. Thomas More got you by a point on December 20th, but since then you have rattled off, 7 straight wins, including in-conference action over Manchester and Bluffton and Earlham and your alma mater, Hanover, and Rose-Hulman, who's been carrying the mantle of this conference for a while, and then Anderson. Did you expect this season to be this good?
Well, we got things going a little bit last year. This being our fourth year, we've got some guys that have been in the program now for multiple years, and as you know, that makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so last year we were 13-5 in the league and 17-9 overall. So, and with only one guy graduating, we thought we could be okay and compete again at the top of the conference. But you know how that goes. I mean, if nobody does anything in the summer and you're not ready to go, then you can get punched in the mouth pretty quick.
Yeah.
But our guys have responded and have played well, and they've done what we've asked them to do. So, as you know, you got to have guys out there that can get things done to compete at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to a few people about this conference, I don't want to say Mount St. Joe came to the forefront as one of the teams to watch out for. Defiance certainly did. I would argue that as you talk more about the conference, you guys come up in conversation. It's not like you're forgotten about. But, 17-9 last year, you point out 13-5 in conference action. But that was kind of your coming out party. You guys hadn't had a winning season as a program since 2007 when you finished 13-12. It had been a real rough stretch. And before that, it was 9-17 in 2012 and 13. What's it like to literally kind of come out of that now? I mean, 17-9 last year, you're literally following that up this year at 13-3. I'm sure there's a buzz on campus about your team. We'll talk about the buzz in general, but the buzz about your team. And there's got to be maybe some heads turning in the HCAC. They're going, okay, this is a bigger race for the top of this conference than maybe even we thought it would be.
Yeah, like I said, we've got 3 seniors, and one of those seniors has been here and started for us for 4 years. So he was here for that first year when we were 7-18 and 3-15 in the conference, and he's the one freshman from that year that's still left. And then we have guys, that join us and come in the next year. And we were playing a lot of young guys when we went 9-17 and 8-10, and so those guys have been around and they've already played a lot of conference games, even our juniors, but especially our seniors. And so, they had a lot of experience and like coaches say, when you have guys that have been around for a long time, is they start a game like, man, these guys feel like they've been here for 10 years, and so that's a huge advantage for us as a program to have guys that have been around and they know what is expected from them and have responded to competing and coming out every night and being ready to go. And so having those older guys, it's just I can't say enough how important it's been to us.
And while you've got those 3 seniors, you're not necessarily led in the stat sheets by those 3 seniors. It's a junior in Joel Scudder who's got 15.3 points a game. Mark Allen at 11.4 points a game. Mark's your senior out of Cincinnati.
Yes, sir.
And then Femi Thompson is up there in double figures as well at 11.1 points a game. And Femi's a junior. So 2 of your 3 double-figure scorers are juniors. So while you've got those 3 seniors, who certainly have a lot of experience having been through the doldrums, as it were, it's what's behind those seniors that I think makes your team so dangerous, considering they're going to be around here for another year or 2.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 6 different guys lead us in scoring this year. And I think that's one of the things that makes us a little bit harder to prepare for is you never know who's going to step up, and our guys have done a great job of nobody cares who is lead us in scoring, and all they care about is how we finish as a team, how we compete as a team, and when it's over, we're trying to get guys in the best position, and if we can find mismatches or find what works best for us, then guys are able to step up and get things done. And like I said, having 6 different guys lead us in scoring in different games throughout the years is hard to prepare for.
Should point out Andy Countryman, your senior. By the way, love the name. 9.5 points a game. He's pretty much right there at the double-digit mark. Ken Kunkel, your other senior, is next in the scoring column, and then it's Bobby Murdoch, a sophomore, who's next. So you point out the 6 different guys. You're getting a lot of contributions. What's going to be the secret, though, avoiding the proverbial injuries, obviously? What's going to be the secret for this team to continue the success? The cat's out of the bag. 17-9 last year, 13-5 in conference play. Now you're 13-3 overall, 8-1 in conference action. The cat's out. People know who you guys are now. They're not going to take you guys maybe lightly as they have in the years past. So how do you get through the next third to half the season?
I think for us as a staff, Coach Ray and I have to go into practice every day and not let guys get complacent, and making sure that we're preparing for the next game as if it's the biggest game we've played. And I think, that's the most important thing. And we've tried to do that as a coaching staff, and our guys have responded to it. So if they continue to respond and they continue to prepare and come out ready every game, then, we'll see what happens when the horn goes off. But, those guys have been doing a great job of trying to do what we ask them to do.
Your next stretch of 4 games is an interesting hodgepodge of the conference. You've got Franklin coming up next on Saturday. They're 3-13, 2-7 in conference action. You've got that game on the road. Then you're at home against your alma mater, Hanover, who you've beaten already, but they're surprisingly 8-8, and I say that having seen them in action, 5-4 in conference action. I think they're better than that record would indicate, especially with their win over Worcester earlier this season. Earlham comes up on the 31st. They're 0-16, 0-9 in the conference, and then you got Transylvania coming up, and they're struggling this year at 7-9, 4-5 in conference play. So you've got a bit of you're going to get a couple battles here. You're going to get some teams who are desperate as well. What's the message to the squad just to round out January?
The message has been, and we've had to do it a little bit here through the first round too, with teams that maybe record-wise don't appear to be, where they'd like to be. Is these guys are still college basketball players. I mean, they're preparing just like we're preparing to go out and win the basketball game. So if we don't do the same, if we're not going to prepare, if we're not going to take everybody with the highest respect, then you're going to go out and it'll be a dogfight from the start to finish. And in our league, from top to bottom, you've got to prepare that way, no matter. I mean, Coach at Earlham's doing a great job. It's his first year. I mean, he hasn't won a game yet, but those guys, I'm watching tape. We've played them at their place already. I mean, they're competing for 40 minutes, and so that's the message we try to send our guys. You've got to compete for 40 minutes, no matter what the record says they are. Every day they're trying to prepare to do the same thing we're trying to do, and that's go out and play at a high level.
You look at the top of this conference again. You guys are up by a game on Defiance. Of course, Defiance has the win on you guys. Of course, you'll get that rematch coming up on February 7th. But you've got a 1-game edge on them and 8-1 in conference play. Rolls-Holman is sitting 2.5 games back under a new head coach themselves, 10-6. 6-3 in conference action. Anderson 7-9, 6-3, and we mentioned the rest: Hanover, Bluffton, then Transylvania. This conference certainly is going to come down to whoever is going to gut out a win essentially to get home court advantage. But how important would home court advantage be for you guys to have this conference have to come through your doors in the semifinals and potentially the championship?
Well, I think for everybody it's huge. I mean, Defiance is so good at home. Rose-Hulman is so good at home. I mean, everybody in this league. And for us, we've only lost 2 home games in the last 2 years. So, last year our only loss at home was to Defiance, and this year our only loss so far at home it was to Augustana. So, it's just the importance of being able to host a conference tournament is so great, and for us, it's just as important as everybody else because, you're shooting on your goals that you get to practice on every day, and you have your your home court advantage with your fans that are right here on campus. And so, it's huge to try to get that to be able to host a conference tournament, no doubt.
Of your 9 scheduled games remaining, 4 of them are at home, 5 of them on the road. So a nice mix there, though you do finish the season with 3 straight on the road. So you're going to have to be a little road warrior-esque to get that home court advantage.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're a little bit have done a little bit better this year. We've been able to win a couple games on the road that we lost last year. So that's one of the reasons we're in the position we are now. We've been able to get a couple of those wins that we didn't last year. So we have to continue to do a great job on the road and prepare no matter what the record says the other team is. Prepare at a high level.
Of course, you'll have Hanover at home. You'll have Defiance at home, but you will have Anderson and Rose-Hulman on the road to close out the season. Any word that if you get home court advantage, Xavier will be nice enough to you guys as they work for the women's team to start the season?
That was something else that Xavier did for our women's team, and I'm sure our guys would love to play in there, but I'm sure they'd also tell you that they'd love to shoot on our goals here in the Harrington Center. So.
Sure. Well, and you got to bring up that topic. And Lauren Hill grabbing national headlines, not only in Division III, but across college basketball and across, of course, outside of sports for what she has done, being a member of the women's team so far, still, fighting, which is incredible to be saying on January 22nd. What's the impact been on your team?
First of all, Lauren is amazing, and what she has done is unbelievable. And actually, she was at the women's game last Saturday. She came in and was at the game and had a chance to see her and say hi, and what she's done for cancer research and what she's just done personally to keep battling and fighting every day has been unbelievable. I mean, and for our guys, they recognize that nothing is guaranteed, and to see Lauren, 18, 19 years old, same age as those guys, I mean, it hits home for them, and to see what she's done, and instead of sitting down and just living it out, she's fighting and battling and living every day to the fullest, and it's been amazing, and the impact it's had on our guys has been so positive and helped them see a different perspective.
It's going to sound maybe as a cheesy question, but I mean, the women's team's 5-11. That's the most wins since 2012. Potentially continue. This could be one of the most successful seasons they've had in recent history. You guys are certainly having a tremendous season at 13-3 overall. Can the influence or the story, or as you point out, putting 2 and 2 together? I'm the same age she is. Darn it, I'm going to go out there and play even harder because I can. Can that have a residual effect on these two teams?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question. And like you said, just knowing that they need to give their all every day. I mean, we don't use that or talk about that. That's just something that those guys and our girls, I mean, they feel it and they know it, and they see her living it and fighting every day. There's no reason. You can't come to me and give me an excuse or complain about something. Not when you see what she's doing.
I was going to say that it does backfire a little bit on the players too. I'm sure if they tell you they're not feeling well, you probably look at them and go, "Okay, your point is."
Right. Exactly. She's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, certainly, and put the Lions on the map for all the right reasons.
Absolutely.
But back to your team again, 13-3 overall, on pace to have a tremendous season. You came, this is your 4th season, I think, at Mount St. Joseph. You've got to be thrilled with how you're able to. You're only the 2nd coach in this program's history. You've got to be thrilled with how you've been able to get this program on the map.
We've been able to do it by being recruiting local guys. I mean, if you look at our roster, almost every one of our guys are from the tri-state area, whether it's Northern Kentucky, Southeast Indiana, or Cincinnati, and these guys have a lot of pride in making a name for the Mount that's right here in their backyard. And of course, I'm from Southeast Indiana, and my assistant coach Justin Ray played at Oak Hills right here in Cincinnati. So we're all, from the coaching staff to the roster, we're all from right here. And when you talk about having pride in where you're from and wanting to represent where you grew up and where you're from, it's carried over, and we've been able to have some success on the court, and our guys have success in the classroom, and then success has helped breed a little success, and you can recruit some guys and keep that pipeline here in Cincinnati and the tri-state area and continue to get good players in here.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us and talking about your Lions squad. I'm certainly very impressed with the start that you guys have had, really, at this, or not even start at this point, certainly at this point in the season, over halfway through. And now I would never say in control of a conference, but certainly considering where you guys have been on top of the conference is nothing to shake a stick at. We look forward to seeing how the team does the rest of the way. But as always, give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be watching?
Well, I just, again, our guys have done a great job at playing hard every day and responding to what we ask them to do. And again, I want to thank you for what you guys do at D3 Hoops and the coverage that you guys provide for the student athletes is really great, and I appreciate everything you guys do.
Well, thank you, Coach. Appreciate the time to take to join us here on the show. Good luck the rest of the season. We'll certainly have our eyes on the Lions for all the right reasons.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Take care. Toby Kerrigan joining us here on Hoopsville. Again, the team is 13-3 overall, 8-1 in conference action. As we mentioned, they'll be at Franklin this weekend. Then they're at home against Hanover and Earlham to round out January before hitting the road to start February against Transylvania. Certainly nice to see the Lions on top of the conference. Fascinating to see how they work their way through the rest of the season. When we come back, we'll have a little bit more men's basketball action. We'll jump out west and talk St. Olaf men's basketball in the MIAC coming out of Minnesota. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. If you have questions for us or our guests, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag us Hoopsville. Also email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. More Hoopsville right after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
I know sports is important, but having the academic part along with it is a big plus.
I've discovered in myself, a newfound ability to overcome adversity at all different angles.
At a Division III school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual. The end result in my mind is you just become a very well-rounded person.
Before I came into college, I didn't really think I'd be able to balance so much. It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
With a D3 school, there's a lot of time for other opportunities. The coaches expect a lot of you during soccer, but after soccer, that's your own personal time to really find out who you are and other opportunities that you can pursue.
By balancing all of my interests, basketball, my leadership skills, and academics, I'm able to better prioritize my life and to manage it.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this show on January 22nd. It's a Thursday edition. Don't forget, we'll be back on the air Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, barring any travel challenges that we may face. Getting back into Maryland and Baltimore may be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll see what we can do. Again, we are hitting the road, not saying where we're going just yet, but we hope you'll follow us on Twitter and see where we're headed. If you have any questions for us or our guests, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. One of the stories that we've been following out of the West has not only been the St. Thomas men's basketball team, certainly out of the MIAC, who's certainly playing very good basketball this season, but it's the rest of their conference mates, as it were. It is an interesting race in the MIAC this season, one that involves not only St. Thomas, but St. Olaf, St. John's, Gustavus Adolphus, and Bethel have all gotten certainly attention throughout the season. So we figured we might as well talk to one of them, but it's not who you think we might be talking to. Joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is Coach Dan Kosmowski from St. Olaf. Coach, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking the time.
Dave, it's great to be here, and anything we can do to promote Division III basketball, that's a good thing. So it's great to be here.
Well, thank you, Coach. We, just in case anyone's curious, we booked this knowing you had the big game against St. Thomas last night. We booked it ahead of time just in case because we wanted to talk to you win or lose. Watched the game last night. I know you guys are licking your wounds a little bit, but it was a heck of a thriller at your place.
If you wanted to see a tremendous Division III basketball game, if you didn't know who the teams were, it was a lot of offense, both teams, and when you think you should you shoot 61%, Dave, you think you'd probably win most of your games, but that's what we shot, and we did not. So it was the first half of the game was pretty fast-paced, not a lot of missed shots, and it was going back and forth, two good teams, and with 3-4 minutes to go, it was even. And when you get to that 4 or 5 point edge, then you have to start fouling, making some decisions. But there were two great teams playing last night, and my guys battled hard. Like I said, offensively, it was we made a lot of shots, and the defense was probably a little for both teams was maybe not up to what both teams could do, and that speaks volumes in regards to the players themselves and how good they are offensively.
Yeah, certainly a good game to watch, especially coming down to the wire. Had a couple chances, had them trapped, maybe a couple cheap foul calls, sent them to the line instead of you guys getting the steal. But it was a great game at top of the MIAC. Only your second loss of the season, your other one coming to Bethel. Of course, you'll get Bethel coming up next on Saturday, again at home. And, of course, you'll travel to St. Thomas, your second, the penultimate, I can't even say it, second to last game of the season. It sounded so good in the head, I just couldn't execute it. In the second to last game of the season before wrapping up the regular. So certainly you've gotten a couple of these big games under your belt. You're being, you're considered for top 25 attention the way you guys have been playing. You have that second loss now. You've got a string of huge wins in between in conference and non-conference action, including over Stevens Point in the second game of the season, 70-69. From your point of view, though, how has this season been?
Well, I think the way the rankings go. When the season started, Dave, I didn't know we lost 7 players from last year, 7 seniors from a team that probably had one of the best teams in the history of the school. We went to the NC2A tournament. We won 22 games. So not knowing when you lose that many in 3 starters, how you were going to play. And we had a good core players we knew coming back. We had an addition of a transfer and young guys getting better. So with the combination of that, it was you really didn't know. And you wait till you play your first round in your conference, I think, is really to take a look and see what type of team you think that you have. And I know I've known all along that we've got a good basketball team, and we can defend. Last year we were extremely solid defensively, and we had some things, the timing issues and some things to get improve on this year. But the indications up until we played tonight, the defensive efforts we've had over the past 4 games, you're probably averaging 53 points a game. That's a great sign. That's an indicator in regards, I believe, how your team can play is if you can stop the other team. But until that happens, you really don't know. So we've got a good basketball team, and we're looking forward to the challenges ahead. The first round, we finished that. We're 8-2 right now, but we'll see where it goes. You just can't look any further anywhere, any conference in this country than the one you play next.
Talking to Dan Kosmowski here, head coach for St. Olaf. And, Coach, you're sitting a game behind St. Thomas for the top of the conference. Granted, no matter how this game last night went, one of you was going to be on top. They're 9-1 in conference. You're 8-2. They're 14-1. You're 13-2. St. John's is lurking right behind, 9-6, but 7-3 in conference action. Big game for them against St. Thomas coming up on Saturday. Gustavus and Bethel behind them at 6-4. Concordia, Moorhead, and Augsburg at 5-5. So you've got 2/3 of this conference within 4 games of the top of the conference at this point in the season. Every one of those teams I mentioned has a winning record. Certainly seems like the MIAC has been a very difficult place to play as of late. Not that it always hasn't been difficult for other reasons,
Right.
but I mean at the top of the conference.
Yeah, and every game is going to get more and more magnified as you go through the remainder of the season. If you don't come prepared in this conference, it doesn't matter who you are, you can get beat. There's many teams that are capable. A lot of close games. Bethel won at the buzzer against Gustavus last night, and you just got to find a way to stay 1 point ahead and take care of the team that you play in front. Until you just repeated what the schedule or what our records were, I had no idea. I mean, until you just said that, and I really don't pay attention to that and try not to, because it's just you can't look at the big picture. All you can look at is we play Bethel on Saturday, and if you can take care of what you need to do, the record and all that's going to take care of itself.
You talk about last season, your first MIAC playoff championship, your first NCAA appearance as
Right.
well in Division III. You get named MIAC Coach of the Year for good reason. You're D3Hoops.com West Region Coach of the Year. You lost the 7 players, but how much maybe has that success and almost that taste of success maybe helped you guys this season, with certainly losing a lot of talent, but maybe the guys going, okay, we can do this?
Yeah, it like I said, Dave, we had a good core, good nucleus coming back, and point guard and 2, and our 3-man, and who had good experience, and so we had those guys coming back, and when you learn to win, that no question, just changing, having that atmosphere and having that mentality, knowing that you're going to compete and you got a great chance to win. That game last night, there were guys that were disappointment isn't even a word for it. Whether it was tears or those are the emotions. Those are the things that come out in the game, and our expectations are every time we take the court that we have a great chance to win. We want to be prepared, but both teams are going to play. Both teams are going to play hard. It's just what's going to be the difference. And as any coaching, as any records indicate, so much of it, Dave, is matchups, who you play against and their style that they play. You might be playing a team that's got 4 guards and a forward and so on and so forth. And sometimes you match up well against them, sometimes you don't. And that's I think when people scratch their heads, they take a look at, boy, this team won or this team lost. It's not a big surprise. Everybody is usually, they're up to play, and a lot of it is in regards to what style you're playing and what the matchups are.
When you look at this team, what's interesting is, you lose those 7 seniors. You've got 4, I think, on the squad this season, but they're not necessarily what's leading the team in the stat sheet, and certainly we've seen that a lot this season. You got Ben Fagini, a junior, leading the team with 17.4 points a game and 5.5 rebounds, shooting 59% from the floor, we should point out as well.
Right.
Justin Paul is a junior, 13.9 points a game. Sterling Nielsen, certainly your senior, 12.3 points a game. But then we go back to Riley Aikens. I think he's a junior at 8.1, and Austin Majeski is sophomore at 6.3. So while you lost all those seniors and you still have a good senior crew, you have a lot of underclassmen who are actually the ones stepping up.
Yeah, the 3 core guys who are coming back with a lot of experience. There's Sterling, who's my point guard, and Justin Paul has played our 2. We've got Ben Fagini, who's joined us and transferred in from a Division II school. Austin Majeski the other night is just a sophomore, had 22 points and 10 rebounds. And you're always looking for someone to help elevate the team as well and give you lists. I have Mason Braden's been playing a good backup at the 5, and Robert Tabroxson, a first year, Evan O'Dorsio, a first year, Caleb Lunning. So we've had some guys that come in and you got to count on your key players to be productive every game. Sometimes that always doesn't happen, and when it doesn't happen, you have to have those guys that are able to step up a little bit and help the team. And of course, you can't hard to measure defense in regards to charges and deflections, things like that. But we've had the men are playing well together. You know, they're I think it takes some time to develop a rhythm and a flow in regards to what you're doing offensively. You know, the guys that we got coming back, some of them got coming back, they didn't have a lot of playing time last year. So when you get in big games like last night, that's different than coming off the bench last year playing 10, 12 minutes. So it's taken some time to get used to it. And I'm sure every team in the MIAC and around the country is feeling the same way, that as we go here the next 4 weeks, we're going to keep getting better and better.
What's interesting, too, is you're going 10 deep essentially every game. You're playing guys, and you don't necessarily you have some blowout wins, but you also have some close games, and certainly games that you would be keeping your starters in for vast majorities of the time. But when you look at the stat sheet, of those 10, nobody's averaging less than 10 minutes a game. A lot of them are averaging 20 minutes a game. It seems to be a theme, too, this year, that the teams I've been talking to have got these deep benches, and that can be really helpful this time of year.
Yeah, no question about it. And sometimes, especially in our league, Dave, we'll take two rotations where we play 2 Monday games. So you could play Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. That's 5 games in a total of in
less
a short
than 2
time.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and someone might get the bye, and you might play somebody that's rested and so on. That's the way it is. But I think having depth, when you get in that 4th or 5th game, that's a lot of time. And it's not just the physical; it's the mental as well. So I'd like to think it pays to be deep, and if that's your style as a coach in regards to what you can do to help the team. How are you going to sub to help the team? And we've been blessed to have players here that are giving us a good lift.
When you look at this point in the season, you only have 5 non-conference games. So for the most part, your players are seeing teams that they've seen a lot, especially for the upperclassmen. They've seen them a ton. Technically, in an upperclassman, career in a MIAC, they're only going to see 20 games of potentially 100 outside a conference. How do you keep things fresh when you start going back through the schedule, as it were? You'll see Bethel now for the second time. You're going to see McAllister for a second time, Carrollton for a second time. How do you keep this team kind of focused when you play that many conference games against opponents they've always seen and against players that they've gotten used to? How do you keep them on their toes?
Well, you got to be consistent at how you run your practices and such. I think there's some things you can do differently in practice. I think there's some things you can do off the court to keep smiles on their faces. And as the season goes on, it can be a long season. And again, just knowing that the team that we're going to play, don't worry about the schedule. Don't worry about the standings. Just stay focused on that team you're going to play, and give them some rest. It's not I think sometimes too is depending on what day. We obviously have to give them a day off in the week. There might be other times where you're cutting practice a little bit shorter. There's take a look at the teams you're going to play, or if you don't need much to prepare for them in regards to their simple team to play, then cut your practice a little bit short. Those are some things that you can use to help your team stay fresh.
When you got Bethel coming up Saturday, obviously, big game, and then followed up with McAllister, both games at home. You'll hit the road against Carrollton on the road, and then back home against St. John. So when you look at this Bethel game coming up Saturday, certainly after having taken a tough loss to St. Thomas, but they're taking on their rivals coming up on Saturday as well. What's the focus? What do you expect from Bethel, a team that tripped you guys up on the road by 10 earlier this season?
Well, they're a team they're quick. They play 4 guards, 3 guards, 2 forwards, or they're quick and it should be a good game. Both teams are positioning themselves. They beat us at their place, and now they get to come here, and coaches are watching tape, trying to figure out how did they score, what can we do to improve. I think the coach at Bethel, wonderful coach, had a good game plan in preparing for us, and what are coaches going to do that might be a little bit less expected, it's all about getting your team ready right now, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think the big game we played yesterday, I think the thing you have to guard against a little bit is it's when you play somebody who's top 10 in the country, and as we're a very good team. The other teams are good teams too, but coming off a game like that, you just got to make sure that your guys are focused and motivated in regards to getting back on and competing on the floor.
Again, you got McAllister and Carrollton, and then St. John's. You kind of have this schedule, and then Gustavus after that. Won't go through the whole thing, but you got this schedule where you play a couple top, then you play a couple bottom, then a couple top, and certainly don't want to take anything from Carrollton. They've got a 500 record, but some of the other teams. I've asked this question of other guests so far on the show too. How do you keep the mentality straight? Okay, you're up for the St. Thomas game. You're probably going to be up for the Bethel game. So McAllister, to all of us on the outside, it looks like a trap game. You want to make sure that your players are ready. So how do you kind of focus on guys? Just because it's McAllister doesn't mean the game isn't as important as the St. Thomas game was.
I think that comes with the maturity and experience. I think our players are pretty in tune, knowing that if you don't come prepared for anybody you play, it is difficult, no question about it. Is probably, what do you do to treat a team? In all honesty, everybody's different.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sign of a winning team, that they know. Every game they can win every game. They could possibly lose every game, and so much of it is, the game of basketball. Everybody's going to play hard, and everybody's going to get after it. It's getting yourself ready and playing smart. To me, are keys in regards to playing anybody in your schedule. I think if you take anybody lightly, you're going to get you got a great chance of getting beat. And I think the record speaks for itself that we've been able to whatever teams that we've been playing, we so far have done well, and we started the season, Dave. I think we played 7 of our first 8 or 6 of our first 7 on the road, something like that. And we lost one of those to Bethel early, and so we like to think we're tested in regards to playing well on the road too. And if you look at our schedule, the games we have, we've got we got 5 games on the road here in a short period of time. We got 2 more at home, and then we go on the road. I think 4 of the next 6 games. So, and that's true with everybody. You got to be ready, and coaches. All the coaches in our league are good coaches, and everybody has their own way of getting their teams ready, regardless who they play.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the show.
Yeah.
Certainly a fascinating season this year for the Ols, especially coming off such a terrific year last year, which we should point out also had come off of a 9-16 year. So, you guys have bounced back and certainly playing well. It's nice to see, and I've even got you in my top 25 ballot right now. So, you're getting some attention, and that's certainly nice for the St. Olaf squad. Congratulations on that. But as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, it's just it's basketball. What a great game, and basketball is a great teacher to all of us in every game. And we lost a game last night, and we all get a little bit educated. It's a great playground to learn about yourself, your emotions, and how you handle yourself. And we're looking forward to the challenges that are ahead of us, and we hope we can stay focused with what we're doing, and keep playing good basketball. We played great basketball last night. It just didn't come out on the scoreboard. 2 great teams played, and we're looking forward to our game this Saturday.
Very good, Coach. Good luck, and we'll look forward to watching the Ols the rest of the season.
Okay, sounds good, Dave. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Coach Dan Gosmowski joining us here on the show. Again, team is 13-2 coming off of last night's tough loss at home against St. Thomas. Number 3, St. Thomas. Who knows? They might be number 1 after Augustana lost, but they got to get past St. John's on Saturday. In conference action, the Oles are 8-2, sitting in second place. Appreciate them taking the time to join us on the show. When we come back, we're going to wrap up Hoopsville for this Thursday evening and look ahead at the weekend of games, especially what we may have on tap for Sunday night. If you have questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. More Hoopsville presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches right after this.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. It was a great show. I want to thank all of our guests so far who appeared on the show. We will certainly be getting more on the show as it comes, as we are officially announcing our 12-hour show a week from today. So in exactly a week, I'll be on fumes. Looks like we'll go on the air about 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's what it looks like at this point in time. Got to work on all the details and get things booked. We have a list of guests we'd like to have. We're going to be banging that out in the next few days, hopefully getting that all accomplished and looking forward to it. So that is a week from tonight. Week from today, 10 a.m., 10 p.m. Eastern Time is our plan right now to do a Hoopsville marathon show. Me, myself, and I in here. We may even set up a separate camera just so you can see the behind the scenes. Not that there's much to see behind the scenes, but we may do that just to have some fun with it. Needless to say, also our Hoopsville fundraiser is up and running thanks to Indiegogo. More information, follow us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Follow it on Facebook as well as facebook.com/Hoopsville. We're 10% of the way to our goal right now. We have a lower goal than last year just to see what might interest some people to donate. And so if you have any interest, please feel free to do so. We would certainly appreciate it, to say the least. We will be on the road this weekend, barring any weather complications. We will be hitting the road to go see some basketball around Division III. Follow us on Twitter at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville to find out where we show up for some games. We will be at games Friday and Saturday, hopefully home Sunday. There is an outside chance, well, I would say a good chance, the weather could change our plans. We want to get back home, obviously. So if the weather does not look promising, we will change our plans accordingly. But our goal is to get some games this weekend. Time will tell, as they say. So that is our goal. Follow us again on Twitter, as I mentioned, and Facebook. Thank our guests from the Mid-Atlantic region and men's basketball, Johns Hopkins men's basketball coach Bill Nelson. Also want to thank from the East region, Stevens women's basketball coach Megan Howie. Want to thank from the our School of the Week, City of Salem School of the Week. City of Salem, proud to host the men's basketball championship yet again. Luther women's basketball coach Amanda Bailey joining us on the show. Want to thank Toby Kerrigan, the head coach at Mount St. Joseph's men's basketball from our Great Lakes region. And we just heard from Dan Kosmowski from St. Olaf. Want to thank him for joining us on the show as well. Sunday we'll be on the air starting at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. A reminder, a week from Sunday we will have an earlier show so as to not interrupt the festivities of Super Bowl. If you're tired of listening to football people talk about the Super Bowl in about 100 different ways from about 10 a.m. until game time, come over to the Hoopsville pregame show for a while. We'll talk some basketball for a couple hours on Sunday. That is, of course, February 1st. Don't forget the Hoopsville Marathon a week from tonight. We will hear from both committee chairs. One of them we've already pre-taped with. The other one we will hear from as well. And we have a list of others that we are compiling, as it were. And one of my many sheets of paper has my list. Believe it or not, I can't find it right now, and it's bugging me just a little bit. I know it's around here, and we'll dig it up. But we got some ideas of who we'd like to have on. We're going to have some ideas of who we will have on. We'll work on all of that throughout the way. By the way, if you donate to the Hoopsville Marathon in the next, let's call it 5 days, we may be able to get one of the guests, if you so choose to donate enough money. We will get a guest on the show for you regarding, from one of your schools. If you pick one of the perks, that will be the perk, as it were, on the show. It's meant to check the scores from around the country today. I apologize. We will do that now to see what else is going on. We mentioned Stevenson women's basketball winning earlier, beating Lebanon Valley. That's significant. Stevenson is having a terrific season. Remember, last year they actually were at the top of the conference, but ended up with a 500 record. Well, that is not the case this year, to be sure. On the women's side, Stevenson beating Lebanon Valley 64-58. Stevenson is now 14-2 on the season. Their last loss was against top 25 ranked Salisbury back on November 25th, similar to Hopkins. Since then, 13 straight wins. That's not possible. 12 straight wins. They started the season with 2 wins, then had 2 losses to round off Macon and Salisbury, and now have rattled off 12 wins since then. Some good wins, some tough wins, and of course, in conference action. They will take on Widener coming up here on Saturday, before then taking on Mount Aliosis. I can't say Aliosis. We'll forget it. They'll be taking them on Monday before getting back into conference play the following Saturday against Arcadia. We'll be talking, I hope, with Jackie Boswell coming up on a future Hoopsville. We were actually hoping to do it today, having taped an interview after last night's game, but last night's game got moved to today, so that's not possible, obviously. Let's see. Texas Tyler with a win over Texas Dallas, number 12 team in the country in women's basketball, winning 69-59. Trying to see if there's any other scores that jump out at me of teams that are certainly in the conversation, and nothing is. Well, Cabrini got another win. They're certainly having a good time in the CSAC. They win easily over Immaculata, 71-40. But no other games are. Trinity, Connecticut beat St. Joseph's of Connecticut, 72-58. So Trinity, Connecticut with another win for them. Certainly playing some decent basketball. On the men's side of things, Stevenson and Lebanon Valley in action as we speak. Halfway through the second half, and Stevenson is in control by 20. Lebanon Valley, who's having a pretty good season, has struggled. Lost 2 straight now. This will be their 3rd loss unless they have a miracle comeback here. Not that hasn't happened against Stevenson before. Remember, Messiah tied it, having trailed by 20 with 15:30 left to go in the game. But Stevenson leading there. Looks like they're in a little bit of control here with halfway through the game. So Lebanon Valley, who started the season really well, struggling right now. This will be their 3rd loss in a row, assuming that outcome remains as we expect. Southern Vermont with another win. They beat Elms tonight, 69-53. Nothing else. Tufts with a win over Mass Boston, by the way. Otherwise, nothing else really jumping out. Kind of a quiet night, especially considering last night was so busy in men's and women's basketball. Saturday, a lot of good games. St. Thomas again taking on St. John's. So there's plenty of time coming up. Plenty of games coming up on Saturday or the rest of this weekend. WashU and NYU in women's basketball, a battle of top 10 teams as the number 3 WashU Bears will travel to the number 7 NYU Violets. That game on Friday night. Of course, the men will follow. Of course, the men's basketball at WashU, number 4 in the country. Of course, WashU will travel to Brandeis. Chicago's playing Brandeis on Friday, and they will travel to New York on Sunday, barring complications with the weather themselves. This weather system is certainly going to affect a good chunk of the Northeast from what I can tell. Of course, Emory will be taking on Case Western Reserve Friday night. That's a big game. As Case Western Reserve 25th, everyone trying to gauge who this 12-2 team really is. They'll take on Emory, who has now lost 2 in a row, of course, to WashU and Chicago on the road. Emory will be hosting that game against Case Western Reserve. Case Western Reserve will then on Sunday play at Rochester. So those are some of the games to keep an eye on. MIT got beat last night. They will try and take on Emerson and get back into the win column. We'll keep an eye on that. They're a team receiving top 25 attention as well. Of course, the NESCAC. No teams in the top 25 in the NESCAC. That is the first time in forever. I don't even remember the last time that took place. I think Pat wrote it up on the website. I just don't have it in front of me. That's a pretty big significance. Of the NESCAC teams receiving top 25 attention, you got to climb all the way down to Amherst, who's only getting 9 votes. Otherwise, there isn't anybody really worth talking about. Actually, Trinity of Connecticut's getting 2 votes and Williams is getting 1. There isn't any other NESCAC team really on anybody's ballots. That means Williams basically means there's one team voting for him. Somebody's voting for Catholic. I know I've looked at Catholic. They've been on a roll as of late as well. So fascinating top 25. Granted, we have to get through the weekend before we can figure it out. We'll talk about what we might expect to see in the top 25. You would expect that there's a new number 1 team coming as Augustana lost to Illinois Wesleyan, as we point out, at Rock Island. That was at Augustana. So the question is, does Whitewater become the new number 1? Does St. Thomas become the new number 1? Does WashU become the new number 1? 2 of those 3 have already been number 1 this season. Does maybe Marietta jump up? Who knows at this point in time? Who knows? The 1 vote for St. Thomas is probably going to stay. Of course, that's me. I have never been in a situation in my top 25 voting where I've been the only one voting for a team for number 1. This is that occasion, and if the weekend goes through, I will be the only top 25 voter, conceivably, who will not be changing my pick. That does not mean people might not still pick Augustana number 1. At some point this season, I have thought, twice at least, for example, when Illinois Wesleyan was playing WashU back in December, if Illinois Wesleyan had won that game, there was conceivably 4 or 5 teams that could have gotten first place votes. They didn't. WashU won. WashU ended up being the majority of the top 25 and a vast majority. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that even if St. Thomas doesn't necessarily lose against St. John's, they could still win. You still could have first place votes going to Augustana. There could be people in this year alone that could be a worthy decision, because nobody's really been standing out as number 1, and the losses haven't been that bad. You could give it back to Whitewater, whose only loss is to Augustana in D3. They have a D2 loss or NAIA loss at the very beginning of the season. You could give it to St. Thomas, as I have, whose only loss is to Bethel. You could give it to WashU, who got spanked by Catholic a couple weeks ago. Argumentatively, you could give it to Marietta. They are undefeated and still winning. So that's 5 teams just right then and there, and I don't think anybody else would get first place votes at this point in time. Maybe Albertus Magnus. I highly doubt it. I think they're a little too high sitting at 9th anyway. But that's 5 teams. Argumentatively, you could give a valid reason to give a first place vote to, considering Augustana has lost. Will all 5 get it? Probably not. I would not be surprised if 4 teams had first place votes come Monday. That's assuming nothing crazy happens this weekend. If Augustana were to lose again, they're out of a first place vote. If Whitewater were to lose, they're probably out. If St. Thomas were to lose, of course, if all of them lose, that's a whole nother conversation. We're right back to square one. So this will be interesting in the top 25. I can tell you, as a top 25 voter, it has been a challenge this year, to say the least. Of course, I blog my top 25, release that every Monday. If you want to, go to d3hoops.com. Down below the main page, you'll find 3 different tabs. One of them is men's basketball releases, women's basketball releases. The other one is Daily Dose. Go into the Daily Dose, you'll find my blog there. I basically give you one voter's perspective of the top 25 and how I'm voting. It's nothing incredible, but it's something of interest. So you can certainly read it. You get my take on the top 25. Again, I'm 1/25th of the entire voting block. And of that 1/25th, I have the same power as everybody else. My number 1 vote is 25 points. My number 25 vote is 1 point. And that's how it works. So Check it out if you want. It's an interesting read sometimes. I don't write about every single team, but you can also go look back at the previous 2 blogs, Week 5 and Week 6. Week 5, I wrote about everybody. Week 6, I wrote about less in Week 7, etc. So I only write about those who necessarily move or I have a quick note about, if in case that is of interest. That's going to do it for the show. We're going to wrap things up well into overtime. We got to get going because we got travel plans and things to take care of tomorrow. If you have any questions for us or you have guest ideas, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville as well. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. Again, a reminder, we'll be on the air for 12 hours next Thursday. We'll be on the air Sunday first, though, starting at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and the National Association of Basketball Coaches. I want to, again, thank all of our guests, including the sports information directors, for their help from Johns Hopkins, Stevens, Mount St. Joseph, St. Olaf, and Luther tonight. Hope you enjoy the weekend of basketball. If you are in an area that's going to deal with some weather, stay home and enjoy it online. We certainly have lots of ways we can do that if we have to. But if you can get out to a game, go and support these student athletes. They certainly deserve it, and they're putting on a good show, as it were. And we certainly appreciate that from them. You've been listening to Hoopsville. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. We'll see you back here on Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Good night, everybody.